Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm Katie Earle. I'm with the Erie County Department of Senior Services, and we're here with Mr. Jaman E. Dunn from the BPO. Thank you for being here.
Of course, of course.
We're so excited. So before we get started, quick shout out to our sponsors, my Department of Senior Services, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, Excelsior Orthopedics, and Whiteman's for everything they do for us. And please reach out to us at Senior Services if you have any questions about programs, services, benefits, things to do. We're happy to help you out. We're at 858-8526. Now, as we are going through this discussion, if you have questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat. So you'll find your chat at the lower right-hand side of your screen if you're on a computer or a tablet. Just touch your screen. That brings up your control panel, and you'll see a circle with three dots. And there you'll have your chat box. So we hope you have we hope you participate with us and have some fun. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you. As you wonderfully said, my name is Jaman E. Dunn. I am currently the assistant conductor with the Buffalo Philharmonic. And that is a position that I have held now for this is my fourth season. It's hard to believe, actually. Um, pandemic you just lose time and you have no idea what year it is anymore. But yeah, I've been here 4 seasons. So a little bit about me, a little bit about my journey. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I am actually the first musician in my family, professional musician in my family. I have several church musicians, not and by church musicians, I mean mostly singers. There haven't been really any instrumentalists in my family before me, but I started my journey singing in church choir as, as a lot of people do at young ages. And my grandmother was also in the church choir as well, my dad's mom, and my mother was also singing. And so that was just kind of my experience at first. And then I went to public school, Chicago public school system, and I think this was the first grade. So we bought a new computer. I will never forget this because of the commercials were like everywhere. We bought a compact Presario running Windows 95, and the tagline back in the day was, Compact Presario, has it changed your life yet? And it was just, it was like these these things. I just can't forget that because I heard it so much. And so we bought one of these, and back when you would buy a Windows computer, then they would give you this little stack of sort of complementary software. And so had a Microsoft Encarta 95. We had several different Microsoft programs that came with the computer, but the one that, piqued my interest was called Microsoft Musical Instruments. And so, you put the CD-ROM in the drive, you go ahead and it comes up and the program begins and it gives you little snippets of different instruments. So if you went to an instrument page, it would give you like a little brief, introduction to the instrument. It would show you a picture of the instrument, and then you could click on the little like speaker icon and it would give you sort of a little bit of a sound of what it sounds like. There was another panel beneath that where if you clicked it, it would say, here is the instrument in a group. And so so for violin, which was my favorite at the time, you could either pick classical. There was a classical excerpt. There was a bluegrass excerpt. There was, different excerpts with violin in it. And it was really cool. And so I was like, I love this. I want to play violin. And also at the same time, my teacher in school had this partnership with a music instrument rental company. And so Quinlan and Fabish had come to my school and they said, we're looking to rent, instruments to the students that are starting out. And so I was like, these things are all coming together. And, my dad, like many parents of young kids, was like, okay, how long is he going to want to do this? How much money am I going to have to pour into this before he drops it and picks up something different? So I took a year to convince them. Like I literally, for a year, I kept talking about it. And so finally he was like, okay, well, we'll take the dive. And so we rented a violin and I started violin lessons. And so Started lessons with my teacher at school. I was, quintessential overachiever, so just kept doing things. And everybody else, and the funny thing about it was, we started with 12 students, and true to what tends to happen to kids at that age, some of them started falling off. They didn't want to do it anymore. I started in third grade with 12 students. By the time I got to sixth grade, there were only two of us left. And it was crazy because I was just like, yeah, let's do the thing. It was great. And my teacher said, I can't teach him anymore because he needs more than I can give him. So here are some music schools. And so my parents were like, okay. And these were extracurricular music schools, so like community music schools. The Merit School of Music in Chicago is one of the top ones. And so I auditioned for there. I got into their preparatory program, which has a tuition. And I was only in it for 1 year before I decided to audition for their tuition-free conservatory. And so I auditioned, and people were like, "This is your first. You're probably not going to get it your first time. It's just, But of course, I did get it my first time, So because I wanted it, I wanted it really badly. So got into that. And so I started playing in ensembles, and it was just this bug that I just couldn't get rid of. Just the joy of playing in ensembles, of playing with other people, of talking to other people, just being a nerd about music and just feeling accepted. It was just fantastic. And so that led, I stayed in Merit through high school, in addition to doing some other programs with my high school itself and with an all-city music program through the Chicago Public School System as well. And by the time I got to a senior in high school, though, I had done so many things that I was, like, do I really want to do music, or do people just expect me to do it at this point? I think now I go back and I'm like, that was actually pretty wise for 18. But, so I went to undergrad at Ohio State, and I entered school as a undecided major. And Ohio State at the time had this program called Exploration, where they structured your classes so that you took necessary gen eds through. We were on a quarter system at the time, so you take necessary gen eds for your first 5 quarters, but you can take any sort of like specific classes to figure out what you want to actually major in, to figure it out. And so it's not a complete waste because the gen eds you're taking you would need regardless of what degree you picked. And the other things just would allow you to figure out what you wanted to do. So by the time we get to the end of the exploration program for me, I realized that I had come full circle back around to music. Tried my hand at poli sci, communication, computer science engineering because computers are a passion of mine and stuff like that. So, but I came back to music, and I ended up in choirs and in orchestra. And while I was at Ohio State, I started my own student ensemble to get conducting experience. Because I'd wanted to be a conductor this entire time. Not everybody knew it. And so this was the conducting bug hit me really early. Like I was 8, but that could be a question later I'll answer if somebody really wants to know that story. So, but I formed this orchestra of peers. We got together, we rehearsed, we performed. It was great. School of Music wasn't quite sure what to do with us because we were completely outside of their purview, but we were being successful outside of their purview, and so they had feelings. But but anyway, we moved forward, and by the time I graduated, I left the organization in good hands, and it's it's still going today. November of 23 will be its 10-year anniversary. So I'm just really proud that that organization has continued to go in my absence, which is what I built it for, and it still does what it was built for: give people orchestral experience regardless of major in Ohio State, and also give a proving ground for conductors that are trying to apply to grad school. Um, because there was no option for that in the school as it was at the time. And so after that, I went to the Boston Conservatory. It's known as the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley now. There was a merger. And so I got my master's, excuse me, master's in orchestral conducting. Did some side ensembles there too. Did a little bit of Star Wars here, a little bit of, it was a lot of fun. Um, I got to perform with a lot of my composition colleagues who were writing pieces for their senior theses and their master's theses. And it was really wonderful for me to be able to get into contemporary music in this way and to be able to help realize the work of my friends, from their mind to the paper to the ensemble to the sound that the audience hears. And so that was a lot of fun for me. And then I graduated in 2018, and a couple months later, I won this position with the BPO, and I've been here ever since, doing wonderful conducting things. And so it's a little long story, but that's my story.
I love your story. That's such an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Wow. And so really starting out with a supportive family and you having that drive and knowing where you wanted to end up. Like,
hmm
wow.
hmm Yeah. It's crazy. It really is.
Oh, crazy cool. So I'm just dying to know what gave you that conducting bug when you were 8 years old?
Oh, well, so I I had known that the sound, like, the sound of music, which is funny because the sound of music, the anyway, the sound of an ensemble was just very contagious to me. I heard it and I just couldn't get away from it. And I I don't know, I guess I just was kind of like, okay, whatever. But then I went to the theater when I was 8 years old. I went, or movie theater, I should say, not the theater, but the movie theater, and I saw an animated film. It was 1998, animated film, The Prince of Egypt. Hans Zimmer wrote the score to Prince of Egypt, and I fell in love with the film score. I've been in love with film scores ever since, but I fell in love with the film score, and it's just the sound and what was happening and everything. And I was just like, I just want to be able to plant myself in the center of that sound. Can I do that? Is that a job I can do? And conducting is the closest you get to that. And that's the thing I love the most about conducting is the collaboration and the fact that even though I don't make a noise, I get to be in the middle of all of the sound and the technique and the grandeur of the people that are making the sounds.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And you'll have to forgive me. So I really don't know much about music.
Oh no, you're
Can
fine.
you just explain what a film score is, please?
hmm Of course. So when people think of music, sort of in the orchestral sense, they think mostly of stage. And so, you go to the symphony, you buy a ticket, you sit in a seat, you listen to the orchestra that's playing on a stage in front of you. Film scores are, so composers are just people who write music. That's just the general, anybody that writes music is considered a composer. Um, Sometimes when it's more contemporary style music, like pop music or rock or whatever, people will sometimes prefer the phrase singer-songwriter or songwriter. But a composer is anyone that writes music. You have composers for stage or symphonic music. Okay. Concert stage, I should say. Concert stage or symphonic music. Stage productions, which tend to be dance productions that have music and accompaniment to them, or like ballets or things like that. Some theater productions will have music, but very rarely. Stage productions also refers to musical theater, but film scores and video game scores are two things that are really huge that people don't think about. Because the process of film, it started off as just moving pictures. Then it became, and that was just silent film. So then that was a completely silent film. Then the genre of silent film is no dialogue, only emotion and acting. And then you have an organist. A lot of times you would have a concert organist. And so a person would be in the theater while the movie's playing on the organ along with what's going on. And then over time, people started to write more and more fleshed out compositions to help tell the story of the movie while things were going on. And so you get to this robust film score thing now the sound that we identify with Hollywood film scores or Hollywood movies is actually from an Austrian composer named Erich Wolfgang Korngold, who was fleeing Austria during World War II because his wife is Jewish. And so he was fleeing Hitler and the Germans, came to the United States because he had been asked to compose the score to Errol Flynn's Robin Hood from the 30s. And so that's sort of like the beginning of the Hollywood film sound. And it starts from him and then it continues on to present day.
Wow. What an impressive overview, first of all, thank you for that.
Yeah, of
But
course. I'm a
oh,
nerd. I love it.
no, I love it, and we actually have a comment that came through that we love your sense of humor and your laugh, so
Oh,
I
thank you.
echo that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow, so he brought that over to us, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
watch all different works with a different lens now, having that
hmm
background.
hmm
Huh.
Yeah, it's I always uh-oh. Page keeps going blank for a few minutes every so often.
Hmm.
I wonder what that is.
Yeah, I'm not picking up on that. That's interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks, Aaron.
That may be a connection thing. I'm not quite sure. Um, I will say, what was I going to say? Oh, so and the same thing is with video games, but sometimes people with so video games started off as more just 8-bit compositions, just completely computer, and now they're more symphonic. The thing that I always tell people is the mark of a good film score and a good video game score is that it augments what's happening, but it doesn't overpower what's happening. Like you're not more concerned with the music than you are what's going on screen. However, if you were to take everything but the music away, you would still know what's happening.
That makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah,
I'm thinking you can tell when things are tense, you can tell when you should be
exactly.
happy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
So like there are extended recording or there are full recordings is what they're called. I believe they're called like full recordings of the Lord of the Rings movies. You could sit down and press play on any of those three films on the beginning of the recording the CD and listen to it straight through and know exactly where you are in the film at any given moment because that's how well the music matches the film in the pacing and what happens. So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This question, when were you able to read music?
Oh my goodness. I was able I started to learn how to read music when I was 9 when I started playing violin. I didn't so African American churches don't really teach choirs by written music. It's mostly by rote. And so learning by rote, ROTE, learning by rote is just basically sort of a call and response type of learning. You play something, ask someone to sing it back to you, and then you keep doing that. And so that's what learning by rote is. And so in general, in African American churches, that's kind of the more common way to do things because African Americans weren't always able to read music, and so it just became sort of a by ear thing. But play by ear, learning by rote, things of that nature. So I didn't really start learning how to read music until I started playing violin. So when I was about 9, and yeah, just kept going.
Oh, I am just so impressed with anybody that's musically inclined, but reading music, I look at it, it makes no sense to me. It's such a
So,
skill.
so here's a funny thing. When I was in high school, we had this joke. So whenever we, found a piece that was harder than we were prepared to play, I remember my friend Diana Razzo, she would look at me and I would look at her, and she was like, "That's just what it is. Pretty black dots on a page. Just pretty black dots on a page."
I'm never
It
gonna
was just
forget
gesture.
that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really funny.
Oh,
Pat Gordon,
mhm.
yes, I did. Thank you. And yes, I am.
Perfect. Will you give us a little bit of background for the concert in Bassett Park last year for those that weren't familiar with it or aren't?
Of of course. So last year, because of the pandemic, we the orchestra was a lot smaller, and so we were trying to figure out how to do the parks concerts with these smaller instrumentation. Jeff Tyzik, who's known throughout the orchestral world as an arranger and conductor and composer, crafted a program for our patriotic pops last year, and we decided to take that program on the road for the summer. And it was an amazing program. It was a lot of patriotic tunes. There was some George M. Cohan in there, Harry T. Burley, spiritual arrangement. There was Amazing Grace. There were, Armed Forces medley. There were so many different things. It was a fantastic concert, very lively. One of my favorite things is doing Colonel Bogey and having people. Wait, what? No, no, no. It's was it Colonel Bogey is the one with the whistle? I can't remember which one it is, but it's the one from Bridge on the River Kwai. Anyway, when we did it, and hearing people whistle, it's just amazing because the people in the orchestra were like, "You're inviting chaos because nobody will whistle at the same time." And I was like, "It's an outdoor concert. People are enjoying themselves. I don't care." So it's like, if you're not enjoying yourself, then I need to change that. You need to enjoy yourself. But those concerts are always fun because we're outdoors, people are comfortable, it's nice weather, you know, we the I like to say the orchestra appears more human because, when you're on stage in a hall, it's all well and good, but sometimes there could be sort of this disconnect between musicians on stage and people in the audience. And so I love the summer concerts because that wall kind of breaks and we get to interact more and it's great. So there will be another concert in Bassett Park this summer as well as Clarencetown Park. We're doing a concert. Nyawanda. There are several. I probably should have here. Why don't we do this? I'm going to pull up the link and I'm going to send it to the chat of all of the stuff that we're doing this summer. And then those of you that live in these areas, if you would like to come and check us out, I would love to see you. I am doing all of them and I'm very approachable, so please come up and say hi. Let me see here. BPO Summer Concerts 2022. Here we are. This is the announcement. No. Um, where is it? Oh, here we go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give you the Niagara Frontier Publications version.
Perfect.
So, copy. So, here is a link. And then, yeah. And, let's see. Yep. Okay. Wonderful.
Sweet. Thank you. We have Peppa
Of
said
course.
it was great fun.
Oh, yeah. It's so much fun. I'm so happy. I'm so happy you enjoyed yourself.
It just seems like it would be fun. You're being creative, you're taking risks. It's
Hmm.
not taking it too seriously, just having that interaction. So
You
very
can't
cool.
just don't take yourself too serious. But everybody, obviously you take what you do seriously, but everybody, music is there for everybody to enjoy themselves. You should have fun. You should enjoy listening to what you're listening to. Even if it's something you've never heard before, I would hope somebody walks away saying, "Oh, okay, that's different." I would much prefer somebody walk away saying, "I enjoyed myself. That music is not quite my cup of tea, but the experience was still enjoyable." I love that rather than somebody walking away going like, "I didn't like that at all, and it was stuffy." And 'cause it's just no, no, please don't.
Oh, I love that approach. We should use that for everything.
Yeah, I would hope.
This next question that I'm seeing is, do you write music?
Do I write music? My my answer I tell people is I dabble. And the reason why I say that is because I haven't really written anything that I think is prepared for public consumption. So they always say composers are the hardest on themselves, and I don't know. I've thought about writing, but it's pretty much a ditty here, a ditty there, but nothing really fleshed out.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can see that.
hmm
Like if when you're feeling inspired, you might
Yeah, I
do
might write a
something
little.
and
So I improvise to myself. Like I sing, improvise, or hum improvise a lot because I also sing. So, oh, I didn't. I probably should have clarified this earlier. My undergrad degree is in voice from Ohio State. So my undergrad is in voice. My master's is in orchestral conducting. There.
I was gonna mention that about the singing. Can you tell
hmm
us a little bit about your journey now, what you're doing, if you're involved in any choirs, on top of everything else you're doing?
Sure. I am the artistic director for the Buffalo Master Chorale. I love my Master Chorale. I love the people. I love the experience. I just love choirs. Choirs have this, they just have this camaraderie that just kind of comes natural, you know? And the thing I also love about choirs is I love helping people realize how to sing within their own personal bodies and within their own limitations. And I struggle. I hesitate to say the word limitations because I don't want it to seem like people can't do things. But the difference with singing as opposed to playing an instrument is that your singing voice is, innately connected to your body. So whether you're under the weather or healthy was going to affect this. Whether you decided to go have 3 drinks the night before or not is going to affect this. Aging affects this as well. There are certain pieces in the repertoire that, excuse me, excuse me. There are certain pieces in the repertoire that are not suggested to people under a certain age, not because not because we don't think people have enough life experience to sing them or they don't have the ability to approach it well. It's for health reasons. Because as you get older, your chords develop in a way, your folds develop in a way where, you're able to sing bigger, heavier, meatier things that when you're young, if you try to do that, you might create damage that doesn't serve you well later. And so that's why a lot of these bigger things, like if you look at Wagner operas, most of the people singing are over a certain age. You look at Puccini, most of the people singing are over a certain age. It's not because they had to pay their dues, so to speak. It's more because they're at a point physically that they can handle it and not create damage. Unfortunately, there are instances where people will have something happen, so polyps will form on your folds, which need to be removed if possible. And unfortunately, there have been in the past doctors that have undergone this operation and not done it well, and the patient has suffered, and it's really annoying because then the patient can't sing and it hurts everyone. One famous indication of this is, of course, Julie Andrews. She had a polyp and she had surgery and they botched it. And so if you look at her career, she stopped singing at a point, and that's why. And so if you look at, so there's the second Princess Diaries movie. She sings a little bit in it, and it was the first time she had sung in like 15, 20 years. And it was, and it was a little bit there, but it's just, you have to be careful. You have to be careful.
Wow, that's something I never have thought about, but that can
hmm
be so detrimental. And I like that you mentioned it's not because they're just paying their dues, like the how the voice is changing and
hmm
the different layers of that. Wow, that's a lot to keep in mind.
hmm Yeah, it really is. You have to be able to pick something. So especially with younger singers, everybody wants to sing all the big stuff immediately. And it's not because you're incapable of learning it. It's because your voice may not be developed to the point where you can do it without creating damage. I learned a role at 21 that I should never have sung on stage at 21. I was covering the role of Falstaff in Verdi's Falstaff. Sang it extremely well. Everybody said I sang it well. The conductor and a couple of my teachers were like, "You do know that the only reason why we did," I was at Ohio State at the time. They were like, "You do realize the only reason why we did not give you this role is because of your age. If you were 15 years older, we actually may have considered it, but your voice is going to do so many things that singing that now might create issues, and we couldn't live with that." And I thanked them profusely for that, you know? So,
I think even just explaining that to you, so it wasn't that you felt that you weren't good enough
right,
or that you did
right.
something
And
wrong.
I'm glad they did that because lesser people wouldn't have said anything. They just would have been like, "Yeah, you're not doing it." And what good does that do to the person? The person feels depressed. They feel that because I had covered the role for somebody that they called in to do it, and they literally called the dude in because the dude was like in his mid 50s. So it's like, like because he could sing the role and then go to bed and wake up the next day and go about his business. I sing the role. I sang the role sitting like just in a piano rehearsal, no acting or anything. I went home and slept for 5 hours because I was exhausted. Like there's so much more going on in here than people realize.
Yeah. Wow, that is so fascinating. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, sticking with the singing. So this is, what do you think about the television singing competition shows? As a singer, wondered how you see them. Do you watch any? Any thoughts?
I have mixed feelings about them. Sometimes I will catch clips. I don't watch them per se, and a lot of times it's because I see things that are cringeworthy for me, or like I will see like the thing that I hate, and I hate for all the reasons that I just explained, is when you have like these young girls coming up there singing Queen of the Night at like 12 years old. Nobody under the age of 40 should be singing that aria for health reasons that I have already dictated. Like, sure, you can reach those notes. What is that going to do to your voice in 5 years? What is that going to do to your, internal mechanism? What is that going to do to your organic growth of your body and aging of your body? Like, that's the thing. It's like people don't realize that voice is not like an instrument. You can't just, put your limbs to a thing and just, you don't just learn key work and embouchure and then go, or learn bow stroke and, and finger patterns and go. Your voice is within you. If you have, any sort of trauma, it affects it. If you have any sort of, it's like think about the fact when you're sick. Can you sing when you're sick? Can you breathe? Can you? So it's yeah, it's you.
Well, I can't sing when I'm not sick, so
Oh, I'm sure you're just fine. I
in
always
the
say
car, I'm
everyone,
great.
exactly, everyone sounds great in their car and in their bathroom. Perfect,
Yep.
perfect places.
Well, just sticking with the voice, I'm just wondering, what warm-ups do you do before going and singing a song or a part of an experience?
It really depends on where I am and what I've been doing. I can't sing right now because I've been drinking coffee, and coffee is a dehydrant. So it's not a good idea for me to try to croak something out right now. Um I I tend to do a lot of lip trills or lip buzzes, the thing where you do that with your lips and then you kind of hum behind it. So, something like that. Is sort of like a general sort of warming up of the embouchure, and that the lip trills are more to wake the face up than anything, because, for example, let's say you sing in a church choir on Sunday morning, and the night before you watched a movie with somebody and you went to bed at midnight and you have a 9 o'clock call, and here you are rolling out of the bed at 8:05, and you're like doing you're doing what I like to call running through the shower. It's basically you get in the shower, do the things, turn around, come out, put clothes on, go out the door, and you're in the car going, I'm not warmed up. And so you start trying to wake the face up, humming so that the chords are vibrating, I have been not doing it so well in this call, but I tell people all the time, if you need to clear your throat, it's better to hum than to do the cough thing because your folds are next to each other, okay? And so when you hum, they vibrate gently. When you cough, they smack each other, which is why sometimes when you cough, it hurts because they're smacking. So, hopefully that wasn't too loud in the mic. I'm sorry. Uh, but yeah, so when you hum, so like right now I have some phlegm, so I hum a little and then it releases itself. Also, please for ever love of anything you hold dear, do not have a lot of dairy and then attempt to sing anything because dairy is really good at phlegm production, and phlegm is basically imagine taking two rubber bands and smearing peanut butter on them and expecting them to vibrate. So don't do that.
Oh my gosh, your visuals are hilarious.
I
Um,
yeah, I pride myself on my metaphors. Sometimes they work really well, sometimes they really don't. But
wow, so you have to be really aware of what you're consuming, when, and just constantly
mhm,
monitoring that.
yeah.
Ah, this next question, well, comment. My niece is in the Buffalo Phil chorus group. Are you involved with them?
I'm not involved directly with them. When they come to the BPO, I mean, I stand near Adam Lubke because he's the director of the BPC. I I stand near him and we like talk about what we hear and stuff like that because I'm there covering normally for Joanne when they come into the hall. But I don't work directly with them, although I do know several of them and I have a great working relationship with Adam. But yeah. Hmm.
Oh, that's really neat.
Hmm.
Switching back to conducting, this person is wondering, what does grad school for conducting look like?
Grad school for conducting. So, your, I guess for lack of a better way of saying it, master's gen eds. So, when you're in a master's degree, you have it's very concentrated, of course. So what I mean by master's gen eds is I mean being in a school getting a music master's degree, there are certain things that all music master's degree people have to take. And so, this is history, this is theory, this is, and then you have to have a certain number of electives and so I take all versions of those classes and those things are pretty much the same regardless of what your master's is in. But then you break into conducting, voice, instrument. Instruments then go on to, private lessons and recitals and playing in different opportunities. Vocalists, same, singing recitals, etc. Choral conductors and instrumental conductors tend to have lab ensembles that we work with week in and week out. And so, depending on what school you're in and what their budget is like and what the size of the school is, you will either have a lab ensemble that meets once a week. Sometimes people have a lab orchestra that meets on this day. Like for example, I have some colleagues that go to Peabody at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and they have a larger school and a larger amount of people. So they have a day where it's piano and strings, and they conduct through a piece in sort of a lab setting with their teacher. And then on a different day, they have a full orchestra in a lab setting and they conduct with their teacher. And so these lab settings are the best way for us because it's very hard for us to practice by ourselves. Like we can practice technique, we can practice, things like how are we standing, how are we gesturing, etc., like that. But the really nitty-gritty things about what we do happen while we're on the podium. How quick can we switch gears? How quick can we hear things and fix them? How are we paying attention to what's going on? All of that stuff requires a group of people in front of you to be able to feed back so that you have something to respond to, and so that's why you have to have these lab instances. And then, of course, we have private lessons with our teacher. And those pretty much go like any private lessons would go. A lot of times we play recordings in the private lessons and then we like talk through stuff, why would you do this? What does this mean, etc. The language of gestures is very important. The language of gestures is not universal. Different people do different things to mean the same thing, and sometimes to mean different things. And so you kind of have to know what you're trying to say. And you have to be confident that what you're trying to say and what you're doing is achieving what you're trying to say.
Interesting. I'm just trying to picture like vibing with your group and making sure everyone's on the same page. And I'm sure that
Mhm.
might take a little bit when you're coming into a new group.
Yeah, it does, but sometimes, and the thing I always tell, here's the thing that they always tell us. They said, make sure that you are sure that you belong where you are, because an orchestra can sniff in the first second. A professional orchestra can, even amateur orchestras can sniff in the first second when you walk out off onto stage. They can already tell if you are full of yourself, if you are a humble person that wants to work, or you're completely unsure of why you're there and you don't really trust anything. Like they can sniff that out. And and I'm an empath too, so I can feel the energy of the orchestra coming towards me, and so I'm like, okay, this is what we'll do. So yeah.
I get that. I'm feeling a balance of confidence yet humility for sure.
Hmm.
Hmm, that's really neat.
Hmm.
This question that just came through, when you are relaxing, what kind of genre of music do you enjoy most?
Oh wow. I It depends. I sometimes I just listen to sometimes I listen to like this new age meditation stuff that's just kind of like, just very, very, very calm and soft, but no real direction to it, which is helpful because if I sense direction, then I try to analyze it, which is why it's good. Sometimes I'll listen to pop or rock music from my childhood, because it's things that I know and I don't have to think about. I never listen to classical music when I'm trying to relax. I never listen to classical music when I'm trying to concentrate on something else because it keeps me from doing either of those things because then I start trying to concentrate on what I'm hearing, which is not the purpose of music in that instance.
That's important awareness to have.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, I listen to classical music when I study. I'm like, I definitely don't. So, so yeah.
That is the least relaxing thing for me.
Yeah.
We have excellent answer that just came
Oh,
through.
thank you. Thank you.
So kind of along those lines, I'm wondering if you're willing to share, what does it look like your process getting ready before you take the stage?
Mm. So getting ready before a concert and getting ready before a rehearsal are slightly different, but somewhat similar. I make sure that my equipment is all set. So I'm very energetic when I conduct, and therefore I sweat a lot. So I make sure that I have a towel to mop my brow. I have a collection of black towels that, every so often, you go to because there's not laundry in my apartment, so you go to the laundromat and you just see like a washer of like seven black towels like turning in. They're like, the hand towels that are like yay big. And so I make sure I have one of those. I have my baton, I have my music. Before I go out on stage before a practice, I do some breathing. I make sure that I stretch. Because if I don't stretch, I get very tense on the podium, which is not good. So I make sure that I stretch. I make sure I go to the restroom if I need to use the restroom. Make sure I have water because out of breath and you're talking and you're moving and you need to have water. And I make sure there is nothing in my pockets and my phone is in the dressing room. And that I don't, and if I'm wearing a watch, I don't have it on because watches like weigh me down in a weird way. And so I don't feel as light. So, and I go out for rehearsal and I say hello and I'm prepared and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to start this piece. I have in my brain a roadmap. However, and the reason why I don't write this down is because when I write stuff down, it seems like I need to stick to it more. And so I have a roadmap in my brain that, of course, is malleable to whatever's going to happen while I'm out there. And so I have this roadmap. Okay, I go out and then I hear something I didn't expect to hear. Okay, that's fine. We'll look at that, you know, or something I plan to work on doesn't need to be worked on. Okay, we'll move past that. We'll go on. You know, and that's how I sort of approach a rehearsal. And then after at the break, if I'm going to go back to that piece, I take the break to go, okay, what do I need to go back and do? If I am not going back to that piece, I'm like, okay, that was good. What's next? I notice what's next, and then I go and I just sit in the dressing room and just kind of decompress a little. Don't really talk to people about anything unless I need to talk to people. So I'm very sort of solitude like in the process of rehearsal and in the process of a concert. But around it, I'm very, I talk a lot. And so before a concert, I tend to, I'm always nervous before either. And I enjoy that. I love that because, as I always say, being nervous reminds me that I'm human and I'm doing this for the right reasons. If I'm not nervous, there's a problem and I need to figure out what's going on. So yeah, shake the nerves out a little bit. Um, and for the concert, I just go, have fun, what you do.
I love that, and I love that you mentioned nerves being good. In my family, we say you're nervous because you care.
Hmm.
This question, do you feel responsible when a musician is offbeat when you are conducting?
Um, I'll answer it this way. I if I know it's directly my fault, then yes, I feel responsible. But regardless of whether it is because of me or them in the initial, I feel responsible if they can't get back on beat because that's part of my job. If someone gets off beat, because it happened the other day, I was conducting something and someone came in incorrectly. And so all it took was for me to not cue them where they were going to come in, make eye contact. So the thing is, you make eye contact with somebody because you know they're going to come in early, and you do one of these, and then you cue them where they're supposed to, and then they figure it out, and then it's fine. And then, nobody back there knows, because they're all listening to the music. But the people, the only people that know are the people that it, refers to. And you don't stop rehearsal. Like I hate when conductors stop rehearsal and they go, first flute on beat two. Why were you like what? There is no need to point the person out. There is no need to, sometimes if something is happening repeatedly, I'll point it out, but in a very broad way. I will say something like, if it's like one instrument, I'll say something like, okay, at measure 75, the ensemble, we're just getting a little like off here. Can we make sure that we have this rhythm just so, and it's like very broad. I could be talking to anyone, but the person I'm talking to knows I'm talking to them. So and that's and that and and that's how it works. So I may or may not feel responsible at the outset of it happening, but I feel a responsibility to get them back to where they need to be because that's part of my job.
That makes a lot of sense. And I really like your approach. And I'm also thinking how sharp your ears have to be
Oh
to
yeah.
know exactly who to make eyes with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's there's score study involved in that too, and knowing what's in the score and what's going on. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
That is.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. So
I
it's like
can
I'm a
tell. I feel your passion.
yeah.
So we're coming up on the end here, and let's just kind of, you mentioned in the beginning how you're able to relax now for a little bit because the season just ended. Do you want to
Hmm.
speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So our what we like to call, the regular season has just ended. It's really funny. There are a lot of metaphors in orchestral music that we share with sports, or we like sometimes, use the two. So, you as a concert goer would say, I go to the first half of a concert, and then what is between the first half and the second half? Intermission? Yeah. Uh-huh. So the amount of musicians and me sometimes that will just say, yeah, okay, so after halftime we need to and people are like, halftime? What? So, so yeah, but it is, but that's basically what it is our regular season just ended and our summer season is in July. So the 4 weeks in July, we start off, we have a Lewiston Bicentennial concert we're doing on the 2nd, I believe. And the last thing we're doing is Old Fort Niagara at the end of the month, which I'm really excited for. And that's officially the last concert of the 21-22 season. And so in this break between our regular full season and our summer season, it's about 2 weeks. Um, a lot of people, some people like to go on a brief vacation with their families. Some people just like to chill out. I'm cleaning because my apartment needs to be cleaned because at the end of the year, everything becomes a mad scramble and you have to just go from one place to the next and you just don't kind of pay attention. Mail gets thrown over here, things get, it's just so yeah, so this is my time to just kind of, clean up my apartment and make it look better, more livable for myself. Uh, but also to enjoy the nice weather and take long walks with my dog and hang out with friends, and it's good. So, I enjoy the structure we have as an orchestra. The other thing too is that, you could sort of think of it akin to a school year. It's kind of like the eternal school year schedule where the beginning is always September and the end is, around now, like the end. So our fiscal year, as opposed to, a lot of people do fiscal years of January to December. Our fiscal year is actually September to August because that's how our seasons run. So yeah.
That makes sense. And
Mhm.
how far in advance are you planning for the following season?
The what is it? The 22-23 season was finalized in early March. So the 23-24 season will be finalized probably by February or March of this upcoming year. So it's about a 9 month lead time. Everything has to be done. But 23-24 is already in talks. They're already talking about it. So,
I'm sure there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle that you can't wait
mhm.
on.
Oh yeah. And people's schedules fill up so quickly, and when you have guest artists you want to bring in, you have to try to, beat the other person that also wants that guest artist. You know, give them a bunch of dates and be like, "Oh, please, one stick." It's like when you're cooking spaghetti, you want one to stick to the wall so you can be done. It's kind of like that thing.
I get that. Come to Buffalo. We're
Right,
amazing.
exactly. We are amazing though. So, you know,
I really think so.
yeah.
Let's see. We've got a comment here. It says, "Thank you so much for a very interesting and fun time. You have a great sense of humor."
Thank you, Pat Gordon. Thank you. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
Yeah, she's a regular. And I echo that. This has just been a blast. So we'll give people just another chance to put in questions or comments. And you already answered one of my favorite questions is what do you love most about what you do? So I'm going to ask you, what are you most looking forward to? This summer, this fall, whenever?
Um, I'm looking forward to this summer because it's always my favorite time. I get to meet more people. I get to interact with people, and I love interacting with people. I love telling people about what I do. I love telling people about music. I love answering questions. I'm a huge people person, so I always love the summer. It's so much fun. So,
I
oh,
get
there's my
that.
dog barking at me.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
This last question came through and then we can close. What guest artist did you enjoy the most?
Oh wow. There are a lot. I've gotten to meet a ton. They are all wonderful people. They really are. As all guest artists go, some are more high maintenance than others. Because and that's just something that you can't really control. But a lot of them are very gracious. I can't really answer that question well, but what I will say is I love meeting guest artists that are around my age. because, we get to talk about stuff that's affecting us as, younger musicians and newer musicians. But I also enjoy talking to guest artists that have been around for a while to get their perspective of how the field has changed, how things are different, etc. Also, as an African American conductor, I love meeting other African American guest artists because there's so few of us in the field, and to be able to like talk to them and get their perspective of how, stuff has progressed and how things change over time is great. It's wonderful.
I'm sure to have those conversations that are relatable and supportive
Yeah,
and
of course, of
Mhm.
course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want us to know before we let you go?
Um, Not really. Orchestral music is fun. Come out this summer. Check out that link. See if you I know we're going to be at different times. Bassett Park, Niawanda, Clarence Town Park, Old Fort Niagara. I know the Lewiston Bicentennial. There is an Olmsted anniversary concert in Cazenovia. So yeah, so just check it out. See if there's anything that you want to come see and come out. I'd love to meet you. Love to see you.
Mhm. And if you get to say hi to him, tell him you saw him on the class.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, just come say hi.
Well, thank you for your time. This has been a blast, and everyone who's on, we really appreciate you today. If all goes as planned, I'll post the recording by tomorrow, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.